Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too, because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting, because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we choose. What I'm discussing today is the importance of embracing your own unique definition of what success is. I think it's so easy to get caught up in whatever cultural expectations that are around you, whether those are cultural expectations related to your race and ethnicity, whether that's related to your gender, whether that's related to your sexuality, whether that's related to your nationality. All these things play a role in how we see the world and what we believe is success in our own lives, right? But what I will say is that I challenge you to decide on a very personal level. Like, look at all of the options that's out there and even some things that's not even out there. Decide on a very personal level, what in those environments do I truly want to latch on to? Like, what makes me feel good? What makes my heart sing? What is something that I want to be involved in, right? So I've mentioned this before, but for some people, that's not marriage in a home and, 2 kids and a dog and that sort of thing. For some people, that looks very differently, right? For some people, it is that, but they didn't get it. So now they see themselves as like lacking success in some kind of place, right? I'm working on a new book, and it's talking about a really specific path to unique success. And I'm very excited about it because I understand that most people are outwardly facing when it comes to what they should be accomplishing and what they're doing. I rarely meet people in general that are very internal about, how they approach life. It's always kind of a little bit about what's expected of them in many different environments, right? And even people who aren't doing what's expected of them, they're kind of like railing against the expectations. The reason why is because the pull is so strong to do very linear, specific things in life, right? All of big business wants it. The government wants it. Your family even wants it, because everybody's kind of been, I wouldn't say brainwashed, but kind of just molded into this really specific way that things are supposed to be, right? But what if they don't turn out that exact way? Do you now consider yourself unsuccessful because you found another path to get to something that's promised to you, right? I talk a lot about this because I always say this. I go back when I was raising my daughters when they were very young. I had so many privileges in raising them and taking care of them, ones that I should not have had if you counted my race and ethnicity, if you counted my income level, if you counted the fact that my marital status was, if you counted the amount that I had more than one child. Every single statistic that was out there said that I would be, or I should be, in a different space and doing different things, and that I would not have access to the things that I had access to. But when I tell you, people ask me a lot of times, like, how did you go about doing that? How did you organize your life? It was just a series of taking risk after risk after risk after risk. It was a series of my daughter's like, oh, we want to do ballet. And then me like, oh my goodness, I don't want them to have scarcity mindset. I don't want to say we can't do it because there's no money, but I may be getting $200 and something from over here for this thing. And then I'll call up the place and they say, oh, 2 months of lessons is this or whatever, this amount. And I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't be spending this money on ballet lessons, but let's go ahead and do it, right? Because how the universe works is that once you open the door and make yourself and expand yourself, it's like a forced expansion, especially if it's something that you weren't born into and you don't have access to naturally. It's like you have to pry that door open like hardcore. And the only way to do that is to actually start doing the things so that while it feels scary and it feels risky, eventually that space is made for you, right? And staying at home and stuff. Every moment of the way, I was like, how can I pivot to be at home with these girls, right? Because when it started off, I was working full time and a grandparent was helping raise them, but I just didn't want that life. I did not want to be a person that got 3 hours a day with my children. I wanted to establish a really solid foundation, and I wanted to make sure their mindsets were right. I had a really specific idea of how that would go. But when you're talking about shaky and raggedy when it first began, it was. I just decided that everything that needed to be done, they're coming with me, right? Don't invite me over to whatever you got going on because these kids are coming. That was just my mindset. And so even when it came to teaching, like, I was like, what do I got to do? I got to get this degree. How do I get it? Right. And I was like teaching classes in order to offset the tuition, so I didn't have to pay tuition. So I was teaching classes for the university at the same time while I was taking classes. And when I tell you, none of this stuff is easy. My bandwidth was very large back then. When I think about this all the time, and I tell the girls, I'm like, I never want to go back to your earlier baby days. While I enjoyed being a mom in that sense, but it's like the constant demand on time and energy, and the constant building, the constant get this certification, the constant get this educational tool, can you teach this class? And the constant, do I have money for this? Is this money going to show up? Getting paid once a semester sometimes. Like, it was always a juggle. It was always a hustle. And so I don't miss that part of it. But what I do know is that I knew that in the process, I was creating my own definition of success, because I was like, I want them to have these things. You can't go back and redo 3 to 5 years old of being at home with children. You just can't. They grow through it really fast and quickly, right? And so I even had a point where I was like, I'm quitting this job. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to turn out, right? And that's where sometimes, like, I was like, I'm going to take care of my own kids. That's where government assistance came in at different times, right? Now, I couldn't qualify for very much because I was always working. But when I did, I was like, I'm using this to the best of my ability. I'm homeschooling my children. I'm staying here and I'm doing this job. So it's like, what is my definition of success? It's like getting it where I saw it. Any little door I saw open, any little opportunity, any little way to make a door come open, any networking that had to be done. And the thing about it is, once you get in the zone of that and you get into the mindset, like, I'm always a winner, I'm always going to come out on top, I'm always going to figure this thing out, the people and places, they come to you. One of my best mentors she doesn't even know she changed my life in so many ways. I just wandered into her office by mistake one day when I was on campus trying to look for how to get into a master's program that I didn't even qualify to be in. Because when you're doing all these things, your grades suffer and all this kind of stuff, I didn't even qualify to be in it. And she made it happen. And she doesn't even know from that moment. My girls were like 4 and 8 years old. That was so long ago. 4 and 6 years old. That was so long ago. But every little door that was open, I was always appreciative. I was always, looking to think, like, is this an opportunity there? Always online, scurrying websites to see, do they have an internship over here? Do they have an opening? And then when it was time to close that laptop and go get back to life, I would get on the floor and play these games with the children and give them my undivided attention. So what I mean is creating your own definition of success. And I apologize, I went on a tangent because let me tell you, I think about those days and it was just a very busy time. And then, like, where my life is at now, it does turn into this peace and ease that we're not even, when it hits you, you don't even expect it, because you're like, oh, wow, all of that work turned out to like this. And when I hear my daughters complaining about school, I said, I feel so bad because, like, I have like a 16-year-old brain sometimes when it comes to, like, life, not like making bad decisions, but I think about things that I don't want to do sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And it's like, it reminds me of when I was like a teenager. And when I hear them around that age complaining about not wanting to go to class and sitting there all day, and I'm like, ew, I said, I feel bad because, yeah, y'all didn't want to be homeschooled anymore. You wanted to go make friends. And I perfectly understood that. Nobody wants to be locked in the house all day or only being able to make friends that are connected to a Christian environment or something. They wanted to experience high school. And I think that's beautiful. But I'm just like, hey, you had the opportunity. But they were like, why does it have to be all the way in or all the way out? I was like, because we live in a society that defines success in a very specific way. Either you're in the crowd or you're out of the crowd, right? They don't let you say, let me take part-time high school classes. And there are some environments that do that, but it's not really very many, right? And you don't get full benefits of being in the environment. So I was just saying that when I tell you the feeling of not wanting to do what I don't want to do is so strong, I'm just like, ew, yuck. I was like, I would never want to be in a classroom all day anymore. I was like, it's akin to a 9 to 5 job. And we already know this because that is the plan, to try to mold you into this person who doesn't mind sitting under fluorescent lights because you've been doing it for 12 years of your life. But the fact that they were out of that game for a significant portion of their childhood being homeschooled, it's always foreign to them. They're just like, this sucks. And I'm just like, hey man, this is what school is. Y'all wanted to go to school. You're like, I want to go to school. But I don't fault them for that. I think it's beautiful. But what I hope it gets to them and gets in their psyche is that you have to learn how to define your own success, because somebody is always going to be around telling you what you can't do or what's not possible or what the statistics are or what the probable outcomes are. And you got to tell them, hey man, I'm not a loser. I'm a winner. I'm a winner. And whatever I put my mind to and whatever I work on, it's going to work out for me. Right? I'm not here on this earth to just fiddle around and act like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, what if I'm not good enough? Hey, man, if another human being is doing it, then why can't I do it? You have to start thinking like that. If there's another human that's sitting there doing something, why can't you do it? Or something similar or something of the same caliber, right? Maybe you're not interested in that specific thing, but you have to start thinking along the lines of, I'm a winner at whatever I do, right? I find success in the ways that are important to me. The value of your authenticity goes so much further than what people truly understand. It may seem like you're getting something out of life when you start playing the game and just doing things to get along and try to fit in this little group and try to keep this little friend group and try to, appease your family and try to make everybody feel comfortable. But it gets you absolutely nothing. If you are not being authentic to yourself, if you are not creating your own idea of success, it gets you nothing but ran over. It gets you nothing but ran through. It gets you nothing but mediocrity. And if you're okay with that, then that's perfectly fine. Then this may not be the videos that you should be watching. But what I'm saying is that it gets you nothing. And so a lot of people get caught up in that whole cycle of what everybody else expects of them. I don't care what you expect of me. I'm not about to sit here and play a game with everybody about what they expect. And at the end of the day, my authenticity is like shriveled up into this little tiny ball. And I'm running around calling people boss and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm not using that word. You have a name. You are a manager. You are a director. You are a supervisor. I'm not calling anybody boss. You know what I mean? It's like there's always this pull to try to get people to not believe in themselves so they can conform to this thing that everybody calls success. Two kids, a dog, traveling once a year, college education, all these things are fine and dandy. But what if you find them out of order? What if you go and you have the kid first? You automatically not successful? What if you have the kid and you never had the marriage, right? Are you automatically not successful? Like, that is just nonsense. As long as there's breath in your body, there's something to be done. I had the marriage first and then the kids, and that thing still wasn't successful. But guess what? I still had to go find success in my own way. I wasn't about to be pushed down and beat down by what these little statistics say. And then I might have had a good insight into it because I was teaching sociology and I saw the numbers for what they were. I'm like, these numbers are not really real. They say nothing about what the individual is capable of. You can talk about on average till your face falls off. But if I don't believe what you're saying is on average, then it doesn't fit in my life. And that's how you got to get, right? And then you have to think about, how do you share your personal story in a way that it influences and impacts others so that people understand that success can be found in many different ways, right? So one of the things, of course, I do these videos, and I love to tell my story about how my life unfolded and what I come from and how it changed to this, right? Because I think people really need to understand that you do not have any specific rules about this life. Yes, there are things that we can conform to make our lives easier. Yes, it's better not to go out there and cause violence to others because you'll be sitting in jail. That is you want to conform to those degrees, right? I would hope you wouldn't want to do that. But in other aspects of it, who says that I need other people's yeses to create the life that I choose? People will disregard and push back on what you're doing and what you're creating and how you're doing it until it works out for you. And then when it works out for you, they're quiet. They're quiet because everything they said didn't mean anything. So you have to start thinking more deeply about, how do I create what's successful to me, right? And for some people, which I've been watching a lot of, which I don't desire, but I just think it's cool to watch, it's like living in like RVs and like living in vans and like living on little plots of land. They found a lifestyle that's just like, I don't really care about this other stuff, right? These are the things that's important to me. I like growing my own food. I like coming and going as I please, right? I like not having internet 24/7. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't look at that from what I expect out of life and say they're not successful and I'm success. I'm not successful to them. They are, although some people do approach it that way. But what I realize is that there are so many opportunities to say, hey, what is it that I want out of life? What is it that's going to make my life better, right? And what I find is that the more authentic you become in that space, then you attract the kind of people that are supposed to be in that environment, right? Because a lot of people say, well, then that sounds like you're not worrying about people. You're not worrying about connecting and socializing with people. You are, but maybe the current group that you're in is not going to be the one that takes you to the place of your own authenticity. Because a lot of us spend so much time trying to fit these molds and be a part of these groups and please other people and not make people feel bad, or, you can't make anybody feel anyway, but not make people feel bad and all these kind of things, that we just lose ourselves in the whole entire process, right? And I'm just not about that. I'm not about losing myself, especially when it comes to environments that are not even positive most of the time. It's like, I'm not about to give my energy to this thing because it doesn't give me anything back out of it. And it can be very, very pushy. I was in a corporate environment recently, just in the past couple of years. And like everybody has the same story. Everybody is married. Everybody, has one kid or two. The ones that aren't, they travel to places regularly. Like they have these really specific, similar lives. They all were talking about having espresso machines and like going to the mountains and their families' lake homes and all this kind of stuff. And I found it to be so interesting. But what I also found was that there was such a lack of character. Like they're very good people, but they lacked no individuality, no character, and like nothing interesting about their whole experience. And I always wondered, how much of authenticity am I seeing in the way these people are operating? I'm not crashing on it, but whenever I see so many people that are like, just following these little cues, I'm always like, I wonder how authentic this is to most of the people that's in this environment, right? Anyway, this video was to talk about something totally different, and it went off on a tangent, and I'm okay with that, right? And so you have to think about, how do you find fulfillment outside of traditional experiences? There's always something that we do outside of traditional experiences that we find fulfillment with, right? And for me, one of them is that I'm very, very introverted, which I think is a beautiful thing. I used to fight it all the time because people told me that, you're going to be like this, you're not going to be. And so that's why being in relationship with me is not very easy. Because I'm always trying to get back to like, what do I want to do while I'm alone? Like that's one of my favorite things to do, is be alone. But when it's time for me to do other people, to get involved and to socialize and all, I'm very, very good at blocking off my, my personal desire in that way, and then giving fully into the social experience or the environment. But it's a deliberate action. It's not like automatic. It's like, oh yay, people, let's do it. That's not how my brain works. It's like, okay, people, let me get my mind wrapped around this. Let me do. And it doesn't matter who the people are. I always like to say there's nobody that gets behind that. It's just, even my own daughters. It's like, I laugh, we chat. And then I'm just like, hey man, I think I've expired. And they go, okay. And they just go in their rooms and they go, about their business. It's not even a thing anymore because I give myself fully to the social interaction when it's time to, right? And so I already know that's outside of traditional expectations, especially for a mom. You're supposed to bottom yourself out and give it, all of the juice you got inside of you, just squeeze it out and give it away, right? And I'm just not from the belief of that. I feel like I can give so much because I make sure that I'm nourished and I'm whole and I have my personal time to sort of, recalibrate myself and to sort of reset myself, right? And the importance of introspection and self-reflection is like priceless. If you're able to get time where you're able to reflect on why you do things and why you feel the way you feel, that's like a huge game changer. That's like a winner mindset, right? If you're not walking around doing autopilot, you can really figure out what does success mean to me in my life and what is important to me in my life, right? Because when you can wake up in the morning and say, I'll do this, do that, do this, do that, and then sit at your desk for 15 minutes if you're going into a workplace or something, because I used to do this all the time. And you're just like, why did I say that? Why did I do this? Why am I wearing what I'm wearing? Like, I would break it all the way down because I was just curious as about what are my motivations behind what I'm doing every day. And realizing what my motivations were, it allowed me to tweak it and think, I don't really care about that. Let me see if I change this. And what happens is, in some environments, it puts you on the outs. And we already know this. Once it puts you on the outs, you can't get back in, and you got to just evolve out of it and go do something else. And that's what creating your own personal brand of success is all about. That means that some places where you were comfortable in, you may get kicked out of. You may not belong anymore, but you got to be okay with that, right? You got to see yourself as a winner. You got to see yourself as somebody who doesn't lose. No matter what the situation or circumstances are, you got to be like, nope, this is to help me win. It may not look pretty today, but it's to help me win. And I decide what success is for me in my household and what I'm doing in life. I decide. That's how you got to be. Anyway, I hope my tangent didn't go too far because I have notes to talk about something else, but it went where it went. And I hope it's useful for everybody that tuned into this video. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.